I'm not really sure where to start. I agree with many of the comments that the Supervisor Elias mentioned, but I wouldn't argue that this is an offensive or defensive budget. The point that strikes me is, you know, I've been around public service and public servants for almost 31 years now, and I've got to tell you that I was absolutely heartbroken to hear some of your stories, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your service. It means a great deal to us here on this board and to this community. I will tell you, however, that we're put in a horrid, and there's no other way to put it, horrid position. I've served in the State House, I've served in the State Senate, and I now serve on this board, and it is a great privilege and honor to do so. But what I have to tell you is that when the recession came and hit, this board was prepared as best we could to avoid any spikes in our rate for a number of years. And what we did was, we believe, responsible, and we spent down our reserves, we cut our budget, we cut our full-time employees, we did everything that we could be expected to do. Many of us, I think, remember the crisis that this country faced nationally in the early 90s with the savings and loans crisis. And the drops that we saw in the assessed value, that's the value of property in our areas. And if I'm not mistaken, we saw a 0.1% drop in assessed value. That was considered huge in 1990s. In this recession, we have seen a drop in assessed value of over 20%. Over 1/5 of the assessed value of our county is gone. So that put us in a really awkward position where last year, to be able to maintain the level of service that we deem appropriate for our county and our community, we had to raise the rate. And there is no one on this dais today, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, that enjoys doing that. It is one of the worst things that we have to do. But we did that because that was what we did for our community. We made the decision for Pima County. This budget is not a Pima County budget. And I've got to tell you that I resent having to raise the rate because of a deal that was made at 3 a.m. in the morning during a legislative session where many legislators didn't even know what they were voting on. That's what this budget is. This is not Pima County deciding its own fate. This is the state of Arizona deciding our fate for us. In previous years, what we saw was the negotiations to make sure that what the final deal that we did, we felt our pain. Yes, sure we did. And that amount was in the $80 million range. Today, because of that amendment at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know that people appreciate the impact. One third of the monies that we collect for primary property taxes in Pima County are going to the state of Arizona. They decided where a third of our primary property tax levy goes, what it's being used for, and frankly, I don't know that there are many citizens in Pima County who would agree with those decisions. It wasn't this board. Today's vote on increasing this rate isn't this board's vote. It is the state of Arizona's vote. It is as a result of their vote so that they can get away with saying, no, we didn't raise taxes. Well, tell you what, folks, yes, they did. And they're taking a third of your primary property tax levy and they're deciding instead of you. I think that's fundamentally wrong. But as several of my colleagues have put it, we don't have a lot of choice. But it makes me very, very upset that we were put in this position. Now, I think many of us here know that we filed a lawsuit last Monday to try and alleviate some of that. And And the chances are slim, but we still have hope to prevail. So with that, let me do this. Let me offer this as staff direction to Mr. Huckleberry. We've heard the loss of investment that we have in our officers in Pima County. And so I'd like to do a staff direction in twofold. First of all, I'd like to see a cost-benefit analysis of, that compares what we're losing in terms of training of those officers, particularly the veteran officers that we're starting to lose to other departments, as well as what kind of investment it would take in order to try and decompress some of the scale that we heard earlier. And should we prevail in the lawsuit during the fiscal year, I'd like to direct staff to look at the possibility of using some of those proceeds to try and not only decompress some of our sheriff's officers, but also the rest of our employee base. So I offer that as staff direction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just